So long, June. I don't know about for you all, but that was one fast month. Welcome back to the beat.
It's still June 30th.
I know. That's the end of it. It's the end of the month.
Oh, there's one more day.
No, it's over.
Mondays, anything can happen. And I know that the calendar says today is 30th of June, which means there's one more day of June. We cannot say goodbye to June yet because June still has a chance. June still has a chance to present something special. What it is, I don't know. But I realized last week on Monday, I started the show by saying, we're all going to die. So yeah. I'm trying to take on a more positive spin this week as we enter the next week of the Austin Birm Show on 97.1 The Fan and 10 TV Plus, because I feel like just saying we're all going to die is maybe not the tone I should set.
Okay, well, so long vacation. That went fast, and it's great to be back on the beat with you on the Austin and Birm Show. And huge shout out to Birm for taking care of Thursday and Friday without me. And sorry to everybody who was hoping that I never returned from vacation, but I'm back, baby. And it is time for some, I don't know, when you flip over or you prepare Birm to flip over to July, you get into some real spicy preseason chatter, and nothing gets me going quite like these EA Sports video game rankings.
Yeah, I think it's funny because 20 some years ago, when July would come around, you'd start to count down the days until NCAA, whatever 2006 or 7 or whatever was released on the PlayStation, and the internet didn't really work in the way it does now. So imagine all these conversations years ago. And people this would have been like the standard conversation in the month of July for the last 20 plus years, but it's not now, but it has been the last 2 years. And EA Sports, I don't know. We're going to talk about the team rankings, the overall offense rankings. We've talked about the players before. We know Jeremiah Smith will be the highest ranked player in the game. We're 10 days away, 11 days away from NCAA 2026 being released. So it's as good a time as any to wonder, Austin.
Yeah.
Are they really doing justice to the Ohio State football Buckeyes in EA Sports 2026? And I think just from first glance and looking at the initial rankings, which we'll dive into here in a moment, I don't have like a fundamental disagreement with anything.
Oh, I do. I don't understand it. Yeah. It well, first of all, did you think that they did a good job presenting Ohio State a year ago? Were they accurate?
Yeah, I mean, I guess. I think that at the time, I thought that Emeka Egbuka was someone who was ranked too low. I thought Jeremiah Smith in the initial release was ranked too low. I thought, I think people, if EA Sports has the context that you think that they do, they should be able to have some conversations with people and do a better job of evaluating freshman rankings than maybe they did a year ago. Maybe they'll fix that in this year's game, because obviously Bryce Underwood from Michigan is on the cover. He's one of the guys on the deluxe cover. That's rare. So maybe they're realizing that freshmen are going to play a bigger part of things moving forward. Jeremiah Smith and Ryan Williams, who were the two guys that a year ago, you're like, man, they probably should have been ranked a little higher. They're the main cover guys. So I think that maybe there's some attempts at rectifying some of that.
Yeah, maybe you're right. But then they roll it out late in June, whatever day it was. And they have Alabama as the most talented team in the country. And I think right off the bat, rough start, unless there's some coaching rankings that are going to sink Alabama's ability to actually win games in this version of the video game. I understand that they have still recruited very well, that they have a cover boy on their team. But, Birm, how much conversation is there nationally about Alabama being the number one team in the country right now? To my knowledge, it's zero. And This is still a roster that a year ago, give or take some portal moves and another recruiting class coming in, that lost to Vanderbilt. And EA Sports is saying this is the most talented team in the country. I protest. I think this is very wrong.
Well, I'm going to admit what we always admit here. Like, I don't know a whole lot about Alabama football. So I do know that they have some pretty good defensive players returning. I know that, but I think that they are plagued by a lot of the same questions at Ohio State or Texas or Georgia are. But as I do a quick Jujel search here, it's worth a Google, about Alabama in the 2025 season, they're returning 7% of their passing yards, 6% of their passing touchdowns, obviously losing Jalen Milroe. So you lose your quarterback. Everyone's going to have that problem. 45% of their rushing attempts return, 65% of their receptions return. So it's not like they're going crazy there on offense, but defense is really where I think that they're given a huge edge in these rankings. I think that's carrying them over the top. But I think you can have the same question about Alabama that you have about Texas, who lost 20-some guys to the NFL, just like Ohio State has. I think the greater argument probably is that Penn State should be number one. If you're just basing it on guys who returned from last year's team, and you would expect them to get a bump in this year's ranking, that I think the argument here is Penn State should probably be number one, but they're not. So Texas probably, Arch Manning will be rated too high. There will be other guys on Texas, but Alabama's defense is really, really good. But I don't know that they have superstars on defense like Caleb Downs that would keep them that high. So I don't know. I mean, the question is Ohio State at 88, number 3 overall in the game? So number 2. Well, let's do the math. I'm not good at math, but I can count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 teams who are tied for second. Okay, so it's not like Ohio State's really third. They're tied for second, and they're a point behind Alabama. I don't want to grouse too much about that. I think that it's probably fair. Yeah,
I think if the expectation was that my issue would be Ohio State shouldn't be third, they should have the benefit of the doubt as the reigning national champions, and they have recruited at a top 3. I mean, 3 is like the floor for Ohio State. And if you have them there, so be it. I don't really understand where much of the expectation, which I know that Penn State will fail to live up to the highest standards because of their coaching staff. I sort of feel like Alabama's in that same boat. Maybe that's an overreaction to year one for Kalen DeBoer. If you want to have Texas number 1, I think I would get that. Although, as you mentioned, like why they are getting, there's no skepticism whatsoever about Arch Manning when there appears to be about Julian Sayin or Lincoln Kienholz. Whatever. We've had that conversation a number of times, and if you're just going to side on the last name, so be it. But I don't really have an issue with where Ohio State is, just that Alabama's number 1.
Yeah, here's the interesting thing. According to, I think it's Bill Connolly, right? He's the guy that does all the stuff for ESPN.
Yeah.
Ohio State is number 101 in the country out of 134 Division I FBS football programs in returning production. Texas is 103rd. So they're actually worse than Ohio State as far as that. And some of that I think is skewed because Ohio State's majority losses are on defense. And so maybe the production, the numbers are harder to parse out than it is on offense, but you're still trying to replace Will Howard. You're still trying to replace Quinshon Judkins, who was like completely OP, overpowered in last year's game. Trayvon Henderson, who's awesome. Emeka Egbuka, 2 offensive linemen who were first round draft picks. So like, I think that there's an argument to be made, and I've probably been more critical of the returning Ohio State roster than most people who cover this team. Like, I think that there's a real question marks for Ohio State, but the expectation is that those guys who are replacing the departed players are going to be pretty good, because that's what happens at Ohio State, Alabama, Texas, et cetera. So I think that's why they get the benefit of the doubt just as much as Alabama does.
I think what you're forgetting, Birm, is that Texas is number 1 in the rankings in having a Manning. So,
So this ranking that we're looking at right now on the screen is offense, right?
Yeah.
So,
and why would Texas be number 1? Oh, I just said it. They have a Manning.
No, I honestly, didn't they lose? Like, they have Ryan Wingo back. They have Arch Manning back. Who else is coming back from their offense? And I'm not asking this to be flippant. I'm legitimately unaware of which players that contributed a lot for them a year ago return.
I mean,
they lost Jaden Blue, they lost Gunnar Helm, they lost Matthew Golden, they lost Quinn Ewers. The
offensive line got wiped out.
They lost, I think, 3 starters, four starters on the offensive line. It is an interesting question. Other than Arch Manning, I don't know what the answer is. So he's going to be a guy that obviously people are going to pay a lot of attention to. But what the nice thing about the new era of video games is that if Arch Manning goes out on August 30th and is 8 of 31 for 87 yards and 3 interceptions and a touchdown, those rankings can change. But it's the fact that Penn State, and we are certainly not like Drew Aller lovers here with the way he's played over the last couple of years. I think he's probably more overrated than any quarterback in NCAA football not named Manning. And I think Arch has a chance to be a better college quarterback than Drew after what we've seen going into year 4. The fact that Penn State with Katron Allen and Nick Singleton and everything else that they have coming back is tied with Ohio State still doesn't make sense to me, to be honest, because they have no receivers. They have no, it's quite puzzling.
I think.
And what does Arizona State have? Just a quarterback?
Just a quarterback. Yeah. And maybe you're still allowed to play with Cam Scatteraboo because it's a video game or it doesn't matter. I don't know. It tells you how much respect there is or it tells me, I guess, and maybe I'm wrong. If Jeremiah Smith is a 99, that's certainly going to put a goose suit on the rankings for Ohio State offensively. But the fact that you also throw in Carnell Tate, who I assume is ranked very high amongst the wide receivers, Max Clare amongst the tight ends, what Ohio State's done with returning veterans on the offensive line, that they could overcome what is probably some level of skepticism about Julian Saint or Lincoln Kienholz in the games. I haven't seen those quarterback rankings to know that for sure, but that they would still have the Ryan Day benefit of the doubt and then be buffeted by having Jeremiah Smith out there is quite a tribute to the Ohio State offense. I frankly thought that because of the importance of the quarterback position and the way that everyone appears to be viewing the quote-unquote uncertainty for the Buckeyes outside of Columbus, that they probably would not be tied for first or listed third on this graphic.
Yeah, I think that's just the Jeremiah Smith boost. And again, I want to be clear, we're educating ourselves as we do this show. As I look at the returning starters in college football from a year ago, no team in football returns more starters than Arizona State. Okay. Now that's good. Wow. But also they were a playoff team. And so I think that they're naturally just getting a boost here because I'm going to list these players and I want anybody who's an Ohio State fan. And I this is not to mock the Sun Devils. I used to live in Phoenix. I am a fan of the Sun
You're a
Devil
Phoenician.
Itself. Yeah. Of itself. I am a fan, but they return on offense. Sam Leavitt, who most reasonably educated college football fans have heard of, right?
Yes.
Then they return Jordan Tyson, Shimon Mateer, Josh Atkins, Ben Coleman, Kyle Scott, and Max Iannachor. Can you tell me what position any one of those guys play?
No, I cannot, Birm.
Right, and neither can anyone else. So I think that they're probably getting a little bit of an unfair, this team was in the playoff last year bump. And the assumption is that they have a quarterback that'll probably be a 94 and whatever overall because Levitt's pretty good. Nice job, Michigan State, letting that one walk away from your program, by the way. I don't know, man. I don't buy it. How do you have Arizona State ahead of Clemson? And Clemson has way more returning offensive weapons that people actually have heard of. Can nitpick all we want, I guess, but
I guess this might be a first. It's definitely a first on the beat. Might be a first in the last 7 years. If you're going on returning production, is one category that you've mentioned. If you're going on veteran quarterback, another that you've mentioned. Proven production at running back, veterans, an offensive line that's largely in one piece, not entirely. I'm kind of surprised that Penn State is not number one offensively. Now,
well, that's what I'm saying. They probably should be.
Yeah. I know what will be their Achilles heel in real life, but if you got to control Penn State offensively, I think you'd be pretty dangerous. You're not James Franklin.
It's a team that is going to be set up in this game very similar, minus Emeka Egbuka and Carnell Tate and Jeremiah Smith, of course, to the way Ohio State was run a year ago for people. So But Penn State also does lose their best offensive weapon from a year ago in Tyler Warren. So it's not like they don't have a hole to fill, but they've done a nice job recruiting the tight end position. To me, this whole, I don't know. It's an interesting question. Would Penn State and Clemson be your top two on offense? Because I think they'd probably be mine. But then you run into a similar problem with the Clemson offense that you do with the Penn State offense, which is I don't know that anybody really trusts Cade Klubnik, and I don't know that anyone really trusts Drew Aller to win in crunch time. But this is why it's a video game and not real life.
Yeah, I mean, I'd probably like them a lot more if I was playing a video game than I do for them to go win a college football playoff national championship.
But clearly there's some quarterback bias here because
there has to be.
Because Florida, I mean, DJ Lagway, I think is I'm a convert. I want to be very clear. I was not a fan of DJ Lagway coming out of high school. I thought he was going to be a less than his ranking type of player, but I've been wrong, and I think he's actually going to prove me like really wrong in the next 2 years. If I was betting on the Heisman today, I'd probably give it to DJ Lagway as long as he can stay healthy. I think he's going to be that good. I don't know what. Notre Dame obviously is replacing a quarterback with a lot of these schools are all like in the exact same situation, except Notre Dame has Jeremiah Love returning. So it's an interesting conversation, and how much of it's just about reputation, how much of it is about legacy, how much is it about just expecting that Ohio State always has great players. You know, Texas is a shock to me how much respect they're getting based. No one's talked about how much they've lost this past season. Everyone talks about Ohio State.
It's only you and me that seem to be pointing that out. Yeah, nationally, it doesn't exist anywhere else. I have an idea for something that I want to talk about later in the week about like off-season storylines, which is something that I did a year ago that was, primarily about the way Ohio State was being covered. It's sort of the opposite for me right now, which is Texas, which is what you were ramping up to. I don't know why Texas is being treated as a finished product. They're further away from being one than Ohio State.
Yeah, and I guess it's probably sour grape sounding because I know Ohio State's not a finished product either, but yet they're in the same conversation nationally, and they're going to be a top two or top three ranked team all at the start of the season and all that. So like Clemson, by the way, also 16 returning starters. But if I named their players, Cade Klubnik, TJ Moore, Bryant Wesco, Antonio Williams, Tristan Lee, Ryan Lincecum, Walker Parks, Blake Miller, you would know what position those guys play. And so I think that's
because they actually have players that Ohio State recruited.
Yes. And I guess that's a part of the puzzle as well. So anybody who's listening to this and hoping to get like a nationally unbiased perspective, piss right off, essentially.
Oh, that's not this show. No,
because I want Ohio State to be ranked number 1 in everything. Well, let's talk defense because Ohio State.
Here's where they should be, and this is what really got me going.
I disagree. They shouldn't be. They should not be ranked number 1 on defense.
Why? For a video game defense, they have literally everything that you could want.
For a video game defense, they have everything you could want.
And for a real life defense, the only thing they're missing is depth at defensive tackle
and defensive end. And proven consistency and production at defensive end. This is not. Okay. If I was playing a video game, and believe me, in 10 days from now, I will be playing this video game. Just as a side note, I'll be requesting off the weekend of July 10th, 11th, 12th.
Gotcha.
The facts are you have Caleb Downs, you have Sonny Styles. You have Arvell Reese, who will probably be like an 86 or an 87 overall in this game when it starts. And then you've got a bunch of who knows. And I've been trying to say this about
Davison Igbinosun, Jermaine Matthews.
Igbinosun, the most penalized corner in football, like most penalized defensive player in football. Jermaine Matthews, who Ohio State fans know about, and would probably rank him as highly or right there with Davison Igbinosun if Ohio State fans were the ones designing the game. But nationally, I don't think people are going to give him the respect that he deserves. So I think as far as the rankings go, you have Caleb Downs, who should be a 98 or a 99 overall. Sonny Styles will probably be like a 91 or a 92, but I don't think there's anybody else who's going to be a 90 on the Ohio State defense. And I think you're going to have a bunch of 83, 84s. And so the Buckeyes being tied for third with the overall ranking on defense, I think is being boosted considerably by Caleb Downs, because he's going to be the highest ranked defensive player in the game.
You know what? You may be right. You might have convinced me on that one. It's hard for me to wrap my mind around it because another thing that you mentioned is reputation and recruiting, development, and success. Recruiting and then development and success in the program, of which Ohio State checks all of those boxes. And it's not like, yes, you look on paper and Edric Houston is a single-digit tackle contributor for Ohio State a year ago, coming back, not a starter. Same deal for Caden McDonald. But it's not like either one of those guys were not known commodities necessarily coming out of high school. Certainly Edric Houston was right in that same conversation amongst the highest 5 stars by all recruiting outlets. So,
yeah.
But I get that that's not proven yet at this point.
This is all reputational based. Ohio State only returns 3 defensive starters. And so from last year's game, there's only 3 guys in Igbinosun, Styles, and Downs that you figure you can have like a true sense of what they're going to be ranked in this game. But they're not the only ones, again, getting that boost. Michigan returns only 5 starters. They lost 4 first-round picks on defense and 3 first-round picks on defense. They're ranked a lot higher than I think than they should be. But that's what happens when you have built these programs over the years to be like, the expectation is every year, no matter what names are on the back of the jersey at Ohio State, they're going to be one of the top 5 defenses in football.
Number 9, and these are again all lumped together. And this is what also really got the blood boiling while I was
Texas
sitting in it.
Does that say Texas Tech?
Yeah, that says Texas Tech.
They returned 7 starters on defense.
Yes, but they're Texas Tech starters.
But they also went crazy in the transfer portal. But again, it was like the spring portal, right? So who'd they really add in the transfer portal? Because
I bet they didn't add an Arvell Reese or I don't know, an Edric Houston. Be my guess.
I think you're right about that. Let me pull up the old Big 12.
That's sitting there, right? I'm sitting there in a traffic jam on the way back, one of multiple accidents on the way back from Tennessee to the great state of Ohio. And I saw this defensive graphic and I said, 5 doesn't seem right to me for the number 1 defense in America a year ago, the reigning national champions, and who I assume also boasts the highest ranked defensive player in the game in Caleb Downs. And whatever, if we're nitpicking between 1 point or 2 point in the overall defensive rankings, I can see how that can sometimes happen. But for Ohio State to be in the same conversation as Texas Tech is just blasphemous, and I refuse to accept it.
I think that's pretty fair. I don't know how that's really possible. Let's see. This is a team that Texas Tech that gave up 38 or 35 points a game last year. It's not good. So if you gave up 35 points a game and you return your whole defense, I don't know that that's actually what you want.
Yeah, I can tell you that it's not what you want. That's not the point of the game. But EA Sports says it's in the game, and we've got to take them at their word. I know that you're going to try and figure it out with trial and error in about 10 days, which got to check the calendar because, as you said from the start of the show, June is not over yet. So we've got one more day to get through, and then it'll be July.
Should we talk about a thing that's happening for you, or did you care about like what's changing in your life when it comes to where your written work can be found? If people actually want to read your written work, which I'm not sure why they would, you can barely spell.
Yeah, I know. That's why I focus so much on talking into this microphone. Yeah, about to head home for a little homecoming at Letterman Row as this month of June gives way to July. We'll be back there. It's a very exciting opportunity for me. Hopefully an exciting opportunity for somebody else down the road. We'll see what transpires there. But to be back with Spencer and to work with Mick for the first time, get to know Alex over there. They've done a really good job with a place that you and I know very well and helped build up from scratch, from the ground up. And it's been a wild few months, probably the wildest, that I've lived through professionally. But yeah, at the end of this month, so later today will be the last rivals, and then we'll be turning the page over to Letterman Row and On 3 or back to the page. I don't know the right way to put it. I think homecoming is the way I've wrapped my brain around it, and that part is an exciting new chapter. Won't change anything right here on the beat in the Austin Birm Show. We are fully locked in. You and I both here with the Fan, 97.1, 10 TV, 10 TV Plus, and this YouTube channel. So no matter what happens in the coming days on the written side, this will not be changing. And so I'm excited about both of that, because this especially right here has been really exciting and invigorating as well to get rolling here. So
yeah, and a lot of stuff is going to change. I mean, as we get closer to the season, a lot more of the things that people have come to expect from us. I know people are clamoring for more talking stuff. I'm trying to find ways to jam in as much recruiting content as possible this week. This weekend was a rough one for Ohio State on the recruiting trail, that is to say the least, which is also unfortunate to say, because they did add 2 commitments. Damari Simeon, the defensive tackle from New Jersey, who absolute priority for Ohio State on Friday night, committed. Saturday afternoon, Cameron Brickle, another defensive tackle, committed. But some big name prospects at Ohio State were in on. They are no longer in on. Guys like borderline 5-star defensive end Carter Meadows, who committed to Michigan. Some hand-wringing and frustration about Ohio State's NIL approach, which we've talked about ad nauseum in the last few weeks. And I don't know that we could really do it much justice to just keep hammering these points about the Ohio State philosophy. Again, hoping to maybe get a chance to sit down in the near future with Ross Bjork and kind of weave through some of these finer points and some points of contention, really, for Ohio State as far as the fans' perspective and what they think Ohio State is doing or not doing that other schools are. But we'll find out, Monday afternoon. Landon Barnes, another defensive end that the Buckeyes had posted for an official visit, he's going to make his announcement. I think he's probably going to go to Ole Miss, so don't get yourselves too lathered up about that. But the Buckeyes are at a crossroads in their philosophy, while everyone else in the college football is trying to hold on to the way that things have been done the last 3 years. Ohio State is trying to look ahead, and unfortunately, I think that it's causing some gnashing of teeth amongst the fan base, but which is totally understandable. But have you ever known Ohio State to be stubborn and unwilling to change?
And that's not really been my experience over the last 13 years.
Yeah, right. But slow to change?
They may be more
calculated,
cautious and calculated at the beginning of a new era. And then once and I think, I don't know that you and I even have like a disagreement about it. I understand it and I appreciate it, because I've seen it work out multiple times, that more measured approach and understanding the lay of the land and then becoming the very best at it in short order. Once you dive in fully and you see that, like, oh, there are no jagged rocks down here off the side of this cliff. Like, that's the safe place to go and the best place to go. And that's how I'm going to do it, instead of crashing and impaling yourself like Michigan State or Texas A&M. Just to name 2 teams completely randomly out of thin air. I'm not worked up about this either. But I understand why there is short-term pain and angst in the gnashing of the teeth that you mentioned. Like, that's fine. I just think that even if there are teeth that are grinding in the Woody or in the Fawcett Center, like, they're going to find a solution to that in the long run. Like, I don't have any doubts about that personally.
Yeah. I find myself trying to thread a needle here, which is to say, I don't disagree with Ohio State's approach, but I also am not sure if it's right for right now. And I think that their approach will be validated and vindicated as things unfold over the next year. But as you mentioned, there might be some short-term repercussions / frustrations as a result. And it's hard to be on the highway. I think it was Stephen Means from Cleveland.com who tweeted on Saturday, like, why go 75 if everyone else is going 90? And like, there's the angel and the devil on your shoulder thing, right? The angel saying, well, because 75 is the rule and 90 is what what everyone else is doing. And so you stay going 75 because you know that that's the right thing to do. But at the same time, it is very frustrating when you watch everyone else speeding by you until miles down the road, you see a bunch of cars slammed into each other and on fire. Meanwhile, you're still going 75 and pass right by them. So that's where things feel like people are wondering, how can Ohio State let this happen? Like, they are not letting it happen. They are choosing this to happen. This is the approach they're taking. And that's not going to make people happy in the short term. But it's also the people who make the decisions feel like they are doing the right thing. And so like you can feel, or you should feel some like relief that, hey, at least these guys are truly convicted that they're doing the right thing. You just may vehemently disagree with it.
Yeah. I, at the risk of opening up a much longer conversation, and maybe we'll revisit it again later this week, as much as I know you don't want to, but we're about 2 weeks away, I think, from sitting down with Ross Bjork again on the beat. But my thing would be, aside from the way the on-field success has played out, Ross Bjork has taken a very active role in determining what the rules and penalties are going to be in this CSC future. So on the one hand,
it would be pretty difficult and hypocritical of him to be a part of creating those rules and
while
then turn
violating them.
Yeah, and then turn around and ignore them.
So, but we can get into that at a later time. But that's to say, I still think Ohio State is going to be pretty good, Birm, and maybe even better than EA Sports believes. So great to be back with you all. Excited for July when it arrives tomorrow. Adam King is on vacation now as well, so maybe I'll get Birm to do a little Talking Tuesday, or we'll come.
Whoa! I just realized it's Talking Tuesday. How come we haven't leaned into that yet? King, Adam King. Get it?
Because you make the graphics, not me.
Oh, I mean, man,
you're the one that made the Texas Tornado, bro. You didn't come up with Talking Tuesday.
Well, now I just did, but now I can't use it this week because he's on vacation. He's on vacation again. Wasn't he just in like Germany or Greece or something a month ago?
I don't know. He's a jet setter, man. Now he's
maybe that was the spring. Maybe it's a spring vacation and a summer vacation. Must be nice.
I believe he's in Spain. They pronounce it.
Must be nice. Yeah. Have a good day, everyone. Goodbye.
Yeah, and enjoy the last day of June. Carpe diem. See you in July.